Netflix's latest stab at a science fiction epic, Three-Body Problem, arrives pre-anointed as something special. Its Hugo Award-winning source material, a trilogy of novels by author Cixin Liu, has already inspired a 30-episode TV series in Liu's native China, as well as a shelved movie adaptation. American editions of the Three-Body Problem and its sequels, The Dark Forest and Death's End, feature cover blurbs by no less a luminary/giant nerd than former US President Barack Obama. But the Netflix version of these hard sci-fi mind scramblers, which moves much of the action from Beijing to London and stars an international cast, is the one geared to the widest audience. It comes to us from showrunners David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, their first substantial project since the end of Game of Thrones. The pair are joined by Alexander Wu of The Terror and True Blood as co-showrunner, and the scroll of other producers include notables like Rian Johnson, Brad Pitt, Rosamund Pike, and several more. So strap in, right? This is going to be the next must-watch television series? Maybe. What works about Three-Body Problem, and what made a fellow like Obama call the books impressive, is its peculiarity. The story jumps around in time from Maoist struggle sessions to today, abandoning key settings as it plows through its plot, engaging in a healthy amount of misdirection. Importantly, it puts a premium on viewers at least half understanding concepts like higher dimensional geometry, a mentally linked society that cannot conceive of the concept of lying, and the confounding physics conundrum that gives the show its title. In short, there's a lot going on here, but the creators did not wimp out. I can't even tell you who the main character is. This show is too big for a main character.
Prepare yourself for something very strange.
For the sake of ease, though, let's say it's Benedict Wong's "I've got the weight of the world, nay, the solar system on my shoulders" Detective Shi. His name isn't really spoken, I think it's Clarence, but in the books, he's nicknamed Da, meaning big man. A Londoner of Chinese descent, he's the most relatable character, an exhausted, confused, and determined man who meets each perplexing new story point with a chuckle and a roll of his eyes. He's on the case after several high-level scientists go mad and kill themselves. At first glance, he's just a cop, but it's soon revealed that he reports to a more powerful, secret authority. The suicide of a notable physics genius at a particle accelerator brings together several of her former students, all of whom become intimately connected with the source of the mass brainiac death. This is where Benioff, Weiss, and Wu show off their first stroke of genius. The series yanks, expands, and contracts characters from the first and third books, and, in one late-season aha moment for the readers, the second, and it mixes them together, crossing genders and nationalities. The plot similarly weaves around the full trilogy, which firmly establishes Three-Body Problem as its own thing. The gang includes Aiza Gonzalez as Augie, an inventor of a nanofiber thinner than a human hair but strong enough to prompt a "holy crap" later in the season. Jess Hong as Jin, a theoretical physicist who comes up with a creative use for old nuclear weapons. And John Bradley as Jack, a nice bloke in the Nick Frost mold whose junk food fortune comes in handy. They're joined by familiar faces like Jonathan Pryce and Liam Cunningham, both GOT alums like Bradley, Jovan Adepo, Alex Sharp, and Rosalind Chow in a role on the opposite end of the galaxy from Star Trek Deep Space Nine's warm Keiko O'Brien. Troubles commence when Augie starts seeing a countdown in her eyes. Imagine numbers flashing everywhere you look, no matter how much Visine you use. It'd stress you out. Things get weirder when, at an appointed time, all the stars in the sky start to blink in unison. Despite the fact that millions of people saw it, many don't believe it actually happened, and this is exactly what would happen in the real world. Then, Jin and Jack start playing a highly advanced virtual reality game. They become addicted and soon realize that, like in last year's Gran Turismo movie, and The Last Starfighter before it, the game is a recruiting tool. Scenes within the game, and unfortunately there are many, are the only bona fide duds in this production. In the books, Liu uses them as a crutch to dig into enormous theories, like how a human computer would work, and also what it would be like if an inhabited planet were to orbit 3 suns. It would be quite bad due to the instability of its path, see the three-body problem, and a big turn in the story comes when the VR sleuths, and those observing them, realize they aren't trying to solve an equation, they're being sniffed out as potential allies for an extraterrestrial invasion. The technologically advanced beings within the game are real. They are tired of their species cycling through extinction catastrophes, they are coming to town, and they aren't looking for roommates. Alas, some of the gravity, is lacking simply because it would take the budget of several nations to make this and a few other instances of hard sci-fi look good on television. It's not laughable or anything, just manage your expectations. Also, there's an NPC little girl whose dramatic importance I recognize, but that doesn't make her scenes any less annoying. What I do love about the series as a whole, though, is how it just goes for it. Some resistant viewers may want to take things a little slower, to which I say, hey, when there is concrete proof that aliens are halfway to the Oort cloud with the intention of stomping on us like bugs, society might accelerate a bit. The second half of this first season centers on Cunningham's character, Thomas Wade, who leads an organization with a limitless budget and zero scruples, with the sole purpose of somehow preserving humanity. I think most would agree that Benioff and Weiss are not strangers to controversial scenarios following Game of Thrones and their aborted alternative history series, Confederate. There's little to relitigate in much of Three Body Problem. No sensitive sexual or racial topics to get social media users all worked up, with the very big exception of Thomas Wade's, radical methods of achieving his aims. That plus his deployment of the R slur during a key moment, which is guaranteed to be a GIF from now until our society finally crumbles. For a series that moves in such broad strokes, however, there are several grace notes. I was quite taken with C. Shimuka in several scenes as a representative of the alien creatures. Her calm demeanor is the eeriest such vocal performance this side of Douglas Rain's HAL 9000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey. There are also a few direct references depicted to Oppenheimer, which was a prescient touch, as well as a shout out to one of my favorite unexplained phenomena, the wow signal.
They are coming, and there's nothing you can do to stop them.
Three Body Problem reworks Cixin Liu's Mammoth book trilogy for a wider audience to great success, though it may annoy some viewers with its far-out sci-fi and speed-of-light plot machinations. Some sequences work better than others, like the video game side story delivering a soupçon of cringe, but many of the performances and one shocking set piece make for a more than worthy adaptation of the beloved franchise.
Life looks for life.
For more TV reviews, check out what we said about Shogun and Avatar: The Last Airbender. And for everything else, stick with IGN.